So I'm basically oversee all of the operations at San Marcos Animal Services and San Marcos Regional Animal Shelter. So we have two divisions. One's our field services, and those would be our animal protection officers and investigators, and then the animal shelter side, which handles the care for the animals in the shelter, and then the live release options for those too. And I oversee all of it. So we have 4 communities that feed into this shelter: San Marcos, Hayes County, Kyle, and Buda. And some of those areas are pretty remote from our shelter. We did a little bit of research, a very non-scientific study survey online, and 20% of the people that responded to the survey that had either lost a pet in the last few months or found a pet didn't even know that this was the shelter that served their community. So that's 1 in 5 didn't even know that they should come look here for their pet if it goes missing. We have initiated some some intake restrictions, especially right away when we closed down. We said, we were only going to take in the animals that really needed to take in, which would be the injured animals, the aggressive animals, and the bite quarantine animals. We weren't taking in any friendly strays at all. What we kind of found was asking the community to hang on to those friendly strays and try to find their homes works a lot better for the animals and for the pet owners than those animals coming here. The society has been indoctrinated for the last 100 years that if you find a pet, it goes to the shelter. But what we're finding is that may not be the best solution. So people find a pet, you call the shelter, say, hey, I found a pet, I need to bring it in. We're trying to tell them, no, you don't need to bring it in. If you can hang on to it and care for it for a couple days, you're probably going to find out where it came from, especially if it's friendly and if it's healthy. Somebody's missing that animal. So because we've been doing that, our intake has reduced about 35% just within the time that we've been closed, and 20% overall since January. Compared to last year during the same time periods. Our adoptions have reduced the same amount, which means that reduction in intake and the way that we're doing our operations and being closed to the public has not affected our adoption rate at all. So we're really excited about that. We've been doing adoptions by appointment, and we've also really increased the number of animals that we have in foster care. And the animals can get adopted straight out of their foster homes too. We have 3 buildings basically to house dogs. And since we've been shut down and since we've had these kind of restricted intakes and we've been encouraging finders to hang on to the animals that they found and giving them the resources where they can, post that they found a pet to get it back home. Our shelter, we've had buildings on our shelter that have remained virtually empty. They're filling up a little bit right now, just circumstantially, I think, a busy time of the month. But they would be nearly full almost every single day before we shut down for the pandemic. And now you walk through and it's really quiet, and we actually have those areas where if we do have a dog that's a little bit more fearful or anxious, we can move it to one of those quieter buildings so that it's more comfortable being here and we can focus on its special needs a little bit more, which is nice. Before we shut down, people could come in during our public hours and just walk around and, look and see if there's something that they wanted to adopt. We're really finding that the appointment-based system, even after this is all over, may actually be a really good way to keep going, because when they're making an appointment to adopt, they're already coming here with the intention to adopt. And we have somebody that's there waiting to help them. We're definitely going to explore more of the finder foster model and supporting that to keep animals from coming here if they don't need to. We're looking at, creating those fosters right away during that process. So even if a finder can't keep it, maybe we can find another foster that can hang on to the animal for the stray hold period instead of it coming into the shelter. We're doing a lot of owner surrender intervention right now, because this shelter, municipal shelters weren't meant to be owner surrender facilities. We're meant for rabies control and strays that actually need to be here. That's what these shelters were built for. They weren't built for people to say, hey, I can't take care of my pet anymore, you take care of it. But we've become that. But so we want to kind of put the responsibility back on the owner as much as we can, or see if we can find a way for the owner to keep their pet. Right now we're really expecting A lot of people are going to think they're going to have to make those owner surrender decisions because they've been out of work for a long time. And maybe they're getting evicted because they haven't been able to pay their rent because they've been out of work for a long time. Or, a family member gets sick and they think they have to surrender their pet. So we actually just got a grant from ASPCA to kind of help with some of those situations, to provide veterinary care for their pet if they can't afford it, or temporary boarding while they look for a new place to live where they can take their pet, or help pay pet rent and pet deposit fees. So we're kind of finalizing those details right now, but that was what the grant was meant to help. So we're really excited about being able to implement that program really soon. We really want to emphasize that there is a value to owning a pet, and we don't want them to be seen as so disposable, or that there's an easy out for them if something happens in your life, because we want people to take care of themselves. But we also know what a great comfort and friendship and companionship pets can offer. And that can hurt a lot when you have to choose between yourself and your pet. And we don't want people to have to make that choice. We want to help support that bond for the lifetime of the pet.